Update on 2007 street access restrictions report. Peter Zahn.
Mr. Zahn.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. This evening you have quite a bit of information in the packet before you, but we have primarily two goals that we wanted to address this evening. The first is to provide a status update on a 2007 report that the Council heard that dealt with street access restrictions and concerns with that throughout the community. And the second goal is to try to get some concurrence from the Council on the recommended next steps. So with that, I'll briefly go over the information that you have. Back in 2007, a report was provided to the City Council upon request to take a look at narrow streets throughout the community areas where it was felt that there could be street access restrictions. That report contained identification of 33 areas throughout the community that had a variety of potential access restrictions that were identified. The direction of the Council at that time was to review each of the development areas that were listed in that report to ensure that we were requiring the appropriate parking restrictions through those construction processes. The second task was to work with the school district and identify some of the potential fixes, I will say, some potential areas that we could increase street access during the school time period. And the third was to go through the other areas and provide some additional recommendations after looking at those. A brief summary of that is staff had reviewed, I believe it was 13 areas that were identified through the land use process to address street parking. Each of those areas has been identified, has been taken care of by the development process. We have worked with the Council most recently on Palisade to identify some appropriate measures around the school district, Chloe Clark Elementary School specifically, that would alleviate some of the traffic and street access restrictions there. And then many of the other areas have been identified as not having an issue, and that's also in the report there. To keep the report brief, if I can flip the page, sorry about that. There were a couple of streets that we identified that we should look at further. Staff does recommend that two areas be looked at kind of as a first step measure to move forward, the first of which is on McDonald Avenue. As we looked at the areas listed of concern, looked back at the actions the city has taken and the record of the City Council, we didn't find a formal action to place restrictions along McDonald Avenue as painted on the curb. It was done as a trial measure to see if it would alleviate some of the problems that were previously seen there. That measure, we believe, has helped to alleviate some of those problems, and we are recommending that the Council take formal action so that we can go and repaint the curbs, place some signs there, and provide for some enforcement. But to keep the presentation brief here, Bob Merritt and myself would be able to answer any of the questions that you may have this evening. There is a rudimentary diagram of some of those areas that we provided in there. It did print a little bit difficult to read there. I apologize for that, but it is there, and we can try to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Please share with us what to expect next and when we'll see this item next for any policy discussion, and then there is council members in the queue that would like to ask questions.
Okay. Staff's recommendation, in the packet, we have provided a draft ordinance that would place those restrictions on McDonald Avenue, and with the concurrence of council, we could bring that back at the next meeting for first reading of that. So that would be the recommended first action.
So once the policy comes to the council for you to take action on, then my staff will go and implement it within the town. But the policy trail needs to happen first.
Slow down.
Beat rock, pull it up, selector. Give them your version now, sin.